you can't learn siloed. You have to express and have conversation and do, Socratic seminars and just really get other viewpoints, because somebody's always going to say something that you didn't think of, and it's going to change the way you think. I guarantee it. Happens to me every day.
OG, y'all new to the game.
It's Morgan J. Ingram here, host of the SDR Chronicles, bringing you motivational advice, tips, and tactics for your sales development career, your sales career, and also your entrepreneurial journey, as I believe that sales development is the vocal and mantra point of your career and also of your life, because we use sales development every single day. And today I have Steven here. We've had some good conversations off air about some gaming and some different stuff. So I'm excited to even connect with him. But he's an SDR at Event Farm. And the topic we're going to go into today, which is pretty intriguing, being a subject matter expert and not a thought leader. So across LinkedIn, for all that you guys are listening, you see it all the time, people getting bashed for being a thought leader and subject matter expert, guru, whatever it is at the end of the day. But we're going to talk about what this actually really means and how you can actually become a subject matter expert and why it's real. So Steven, tell us a little bit more about yourself and why you're excited about the topic today.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. Like you said, I'm an SDR at Event Farm. I'm a technology and gaming specialist here, so I get to talk to, big gaming companies and thought leaders in the tech space all day, every day. And so through that, I obviously have to know what I'm talking about if I'm talking to, the Googles and Facebooks of the world, right?
Yeah.
So outside of work, I'm also a gaming enthusiast. Like you said, Morgan, we've had a couple of real good conversations about that, and just kind of what's on the up and up is something that, I really try to do.
Awesome. So let's hop into the first question is, what do you believe a thought leader is? And what's that definition for you?
So a thought leader, I'd say, is somebody who not only understands what is going on within a specific, whether it be industry or style of anything really, but also challenges people to really think about what they're saying and kind of drive a conversation or communication around what's going on. So if we'll use, technology, for instance, somebody who not only understands what is the newest tech that's out there, but why it's important, driving conversation around what's its pros, what's its cons, and educating other people throughout that journey.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And how does one start that journey, right? So I believe, honestly, at the end of the day, it's like if someone's in it and they're providing that context, then in a lieu, that makes them a thought leader, even though I never really see myself as that. But
Right.
I feel like that's like the real root definition. It's not something that you yourself can be like, this is what I am. I am a thought leader. Because then I feel like that's when you lose that context.
Right, most definitely. So I think, kind of going into that a little bit more is you have to define what a subject matter expert is first. Because I feel like it's like two different levels of the same chord, So you have a subject matter expert, somebody that really understands down to like the nitty gritty. I'll quote the late Stephen Hawking on this, but in order to be a subject matter expert in something, you have to be able to explain the most complex thing to somebody who has no idea what you're talking about in a way that they'll still understand. I think that is when you become a subject matter expert. And then becoming a thought leader is taking that knowledge that you have and using it and applying it to other areas that kind of are similar, bringing people together from different organizations, different walks of life, different schools of thought, and really kind of driving in a new direction. And again, just leading the thought around anything.
Right. And of course, the topic of this is, well, great. Now we understand the context of what a thought leader is. Let's talk about subject matter expert. And you mentioned it already, but how does one become that? Because I feel like from the conversation we had before, that's way more obtainable than maybe becoming this thought leader.
Definitely. So subject matter expert, in order to become an expert in your field, I feel like you have to have drive. You have to have a passion about it. You can spend all the time reading about something that you're not interested in, and sure, you'll retain some of it. But if you don't have some sort of fire burning within you in order to really want to learn, I don't think you ever will.
Yeah.
So things that I would recommend to become a subject matter expert is to immerse yourself in whatever you're trying to learn. really take the time to read other people's opinions and get a more holistic view over, again, I always default back to technology because that's my safe space.
Yeah.
Reading what's new and trending, getting other people's reviews and input, and, also looking at the actual notes and release notes and it's called consumer reports and those types of things around something, and then internalizing it, creating your own opinions of it, and then you essentially become an expert in your field. It's always just about learning and getting whatever's new.
Yeah, and you bring up some great points, and you brought some places where people can go: blogs, articles, interviews, all sorts of different places that you can go to get that information.
Yep.
But this is a question that I think a lot of people are wondering in their own heads, and they may have answered it, or I always wonder about other people. So I'll give context before I ask the question. Before I understood where I really wanted to go, I worked previously at a company called Terminus. I was very intrigued with marketing and digital ads. So that's why I went to that company, because I wanted to learn more about that space.
Right.
So the question for you is, what do you think people should focus on? What is going to make the most money and then become a subject matter expert, or find something you're passionate about and then find a job that correlates with the subject matter that you're actually passionate about?
Ooh, that's tough, to be honest. I'm always going to be the person that's going to tell you to follow your dreams. Do what you want to do what makes you happy and is fulfilling, and the money will come.
Right.
It worked for me, but obviously that doesn't work for everyone, and even when I started this job, I wasn't in the role I was in now. I am working in event technology. So I had that aspect of it, but the more that I, took what my work is and then was like, hey, I'm going to start layering in these aspects of my life that I think are applicable to my job. I started being not only more successful in my role as an SDR, but obviously making more money off commission. And then, I get excited about coming into work, and I don't mind, when I go home and I'm reading articles and blogs and everything else that's going on, I don't view it as work, even though I come in the next day and use all that information,
You see it as part of your journey and not something that like you're forced to do.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I think this is a great point, because I think a lot of people do fall into that, and I believe it's really a stepping stone. So, when I initially became an SDR, I wasn't passionate about sales development. It wasn't like, yep, I'm coming out of college, I'm gonna be an SDR, and I'm gonna start creating content. Like, that was not my initial thought at all.
Right.
But it built into that because I found a company where, okay, I like what they're talking about. Then I realized, wait, I like this role. I like what encompasses here. I like the mindset. I like the motivation behind this. And then it turned into me creating more content. So talk a little bit more about how maybe you found your passion into becoming a subject matter expert in the event space and then talking to people in the gaming industry. Because was that overnight, or was it like you kind of gravitated towards it?
Yeah. So outside of work, I'm a huge gamer. I've been, doing semi-professional and professional gaming for about 8 years or so now.
Yeah.
So I'm working in the event marketing space, right? Event technology. And so I thought to myself, I was like, all right, so what type of companies throw a bunch of events that they would want something really cool at their event that they could leverage our technology? And I didn't even think about the fact that when I was working at GameStop, I would go to a giant conference every year that had a bunch of cool activations. And I was like, maybe I should try reaching out to them. And then maybe I should try reaching out to the companies that are like them that were at that event. And then it was just a spider web out of like, I have this understanding of what those companies are. I can kind of navigate reasons why to talk to one and leverage that conversation into another.
Yeah.
And I kind of told my boss, I was like, hey, I'm going to keep doing like what, you want me to do, but then I'm going to go above and beyond and do like this own stuff, and maybe it'll work out. And then once it started working out, we kind of reorganized our entire structure internally. And our SDRs went from being, geography-based territories to industry verticals. And because of all the work I had done on the technology side, they were like, you should do that. So,
yeah.
So that's kind of how, it definitely wasn't an overnight thing, but once I started picking up steam, and once I, really started to show that, hey, I'm passionate about this and I want to do this, they were like, then they cut the reins and they were like, go do it and go make money. Go
Yeah.
make us money.
I love it. And as I want everyone to see right there was a progression, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't like he was in elementary school and was like, okay, like this is what I'm going to do now. It's a progression. You got to find the stuff that initially excites you and now lead you to the next thing. That's ultimately what I believe, because the stuff that I was passionate about 10 years ago is completely different than what I'm like really locked in and focused on now. It's a different story. So have that progression, have that journey. And let's dive a little bit deeper into where do you go to learn about your subject, right? So a lot of people are listening in, they're SDRs, they're sales leaders, they're in sales, maybe they're starting out a new business and they have to know their subject or they're not going to be able to sell the meeting or sell the opportunity or move across the sales cycle. So you mentioned blogs, you mentioned books and interviews that you're going to. Are you going to events? Like what else are you doing to get that subject matter?
So it's a lot. I'm constantly going to events. I actually have a big gaming convention called AwesomeCon in DC that I'm going to go in and network with as many people as I can. Outside of that, I scour LinkedIn. I'm on YouTube consistently trying to hone my craft, listening to thought leaders on the subject of sales and et cetera and so forth. Constantly reading books, going to as many networking events, and I do a lot of referral-based networking, and just anywhere that I can get information from, whether that's Reddit or YouTube or LinkedIn, or good old-fashioned just paperback books.
Yeah,
I'm consuming. But I think without the immersion of actually going to events, going to be around people that have that kind of like similarities or like-minded, you're not going to be able to bounce anything off of anyone. You can't learn siloed. You have to express and have conversation and do, Socratic seminars and just really get other viewpoints, because somebody's always going to say something that you didn't think of, and it's going to change the way you think. I guarantee it happens to me every day.
Yeah. I do believe that when you go to events, it changes the dynamic and the mindset of what you're going to do every single time. Like you said, there's always going to be something that you've heard that I never really thought of it that way. You thought of it, but you didn't think of it that way.
Right.
It changes your approach and how you reach out to people, which goes into the next question is, what tools are you using to leverage your knowledge to your prospects that you're learning from all these different things that you're taking absorption from?
Yeah. So, I'd say my number one tool is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Whenever I'm looking into prospects, it allows me to kind of get a detailed understanding of the journey of that prospect and why they are where they are now, by looking at their job history and what they do. And then I also, really look at the networks that they're involved in. What are they posting? What are they interested in? And I kind of frame my conversations around that. So let me rephrase that. I frame how I open up a conversation with them, by having that background knowledge on somebody. You know what I mean? And then leveraging what I know and why they should care about what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's really important. And how do you dive a little bit deeper into Sales Navigator? Do you create lists? Do you save searches?
So I pull generally a generic list build through ZoomInfo first.
Okay.
And I have Excel sheets upon Excel sheets of what companies that I have as my quote unquote target accounts. And so I look at those, and then I pull a segment off there, put them in ZoomInfo, and I populate a list of people of 20 or 30 people. And then I take that list to Sales Nav, and I get a good understanding of who they are before I even reach out to them. And then using SalesLoft and also Salesforce, they both have those LinkedIn Sales Nav integrations.
Yeah.
Especially SalesLoft has a top 10 competitors integration tab that kind of pops up. So as I'm scrolling through and seeing where they are, what they're doing, I can also see at the other companies, they're their competitors. And I always try to frame things of hey, X company, I think it might make sense for you and I to talk because I'm already talking with Y, and they're interested, and Z is already one of our clients. So
yeah,
I think it's worth a
hop on board.
But if you want to keep doing what you're doing, then good luck. So
yeah. And for context, that tool's Aller, so you guys can use that to get those competitors and figure out what's going on. Because it makes it really good, especially from a subject matter standpoint. If you know what you're talking about, you're able to leverage that information and put it in the right spot. And so going further, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, being a subject matter expert, things that we've touched on, but let's talk about verticals and just prospects' pain points. How has the information that you've gained from continuously seeking to be a subject matter expert help you with studying verticals and prospects' pain points?
Yeah. So like I said, I have a very narrow, I don't want to say narrow vertical because technology is so different depending on which type of technology it is.
Yeah.
But kind of understanding what the general flow, and since my software that I sell is specific to events, looking at the different types of events that I normally will talk about. If I'm talking about a trade show, then obviously I have these pain points that I've collected over, my tenure here of what are the most common things. Do you not get your list ahead of time of the people that are going to be there? How's your lead capture going? What are you doing for following up? And understanding what those major pain points are, I can kind of lead the conversation or at least probe around those talking points to really dig out latent pain, kind of following like that Sandler model. And then towards the end of the conversation, I'll usually switch over to like a challenger model type sale, or going into that disco call where I can get, Vant. I'll really probe and challenge the way that people are thinking about their events. And again, that all comes back from understanding what their industry is, what their type of event is, what specifically they don't know, because people don't know what they don't know, right? So if I can be like, hey, have you thought about doing it like this? Or, have you thought about maybe integrating something else that, I know some of your competitors might be doing,
right?
Why aren't you? So really having that understanding of the subject matter of technology, of what's going on, definitely frames the entire conversation going in.
Yeah, it does. And it makes you, and you also have to think about you're competing against other SDRs across the board.
Yep.
So it's going to make you stand out with all this noise that's going on. You want to make sure that you're doing that.
Oh yeah, hands down.
And what would you say one thing in pursuit of being a subject matter expert that most people aren't thinking of that you found to be the most valuable?
Immersion, hands down. I mean, I eat, sleep, and breathe tech.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 30 to 40-minute commute every morning. I'm reading articles the entire time. When I'm sitting there prospecting and building my lists, I'm listening to a podcast. I'm listening to a YouTube video in the background. When I'm eating lunch, I'm going through LinkedIn and looking at what my prospects are liking and what groups they're in, and trying to get into that. So it's really just that immersive mentality of I want to be the best. I'm going to be the best. And how do I do that? It's just consistently putting myself out there, whether it be events or virtually, and then also consistently getting new information that I would have not acquired any other way.
Right. No, that's great. And to wrap it all up, I got one last question for you, Steven, but thank you so much for all the insight you provided thus far. The last question I ask every single person at the end of the interview is, what is the number one piece of advice that you have for SDRs as they enter into their new role?
For like a new SDR? Yeah,
new SDR.
Yeah. Honestly, just take the time to understand your tool set. When I first started as an SDR, I was fresh out of college and I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I took enough time to really understand how the different tools I had worked, how I can leverage them to work together. You're not going to build a house with one screwdriver and a hammer. You have to have enough tools to build a foundation and then build your house up, right? So that's the same thing with sales and being an SDR. Get your foundation of your tools and then use those tools in order to build up.
Awesome. Well, Steven, once again, thank you so much for hopping on the SDR Chronicles. As I always say, guys, keep dialing and I'll see you guys soon.
All right. Sounds good, man.